Welcome back. This is a huge month for horror and thriller with Cobweb, Talk to Me, and Insidious hitting cinemas. But here is what to expect at home on VOD and streaming platforms. As always, these are the platforms with the widest releases, but look for the equivalent in your location around the same date. Mr. Blum has been talking a big game with new horror, Dolores Roach, and I'm sure a lot of you are keen for this one because of its protagonist, of course, Dolores Roach, who is played by Justina Machado. Heading directly to Prime, the comedy horror follows a woman who is released after a prison sentence and reunites with an old friend who lets her work as a masseuse. But when the promise of her newfound stability is threatened, Dolores is driven to shocking extremes to survive. This one is, of course, a Blumhouse production, and you can catch it on Prime in most countries from the 7th. Okay, this one is a dark comedy and think more Black Mirror than pure horror, but I hope you'll forgive me for this one because I just had to mention it. And here's why. The film stars Sterling K. Brown and Mark Duplass, who is everything. The film takes place in the not so distant future where the last two men on Earth must adapt and evolve to save humanity. Who's ready to spiral with me? This one will be released on VOD platforms from the 7th. The Breach is finally heading to VOD platforms on the 11th. This film was first seen a year ago at the Fantasia Film Festival on July the 25th. The Canadian indie horror mystery follows a chief of police who is counting down the last days on the job in a tiny town known as Lone Crow, which is nestled deep in the woods of northern Ontario. But when a mangled body with uncanny wounds washes up on shore, he's pulled into a horrific mystery that defies comprehension. This film is based on the Nick Cutter novel called The Troop, and it was adapted by the author and Ian Weir. And random fact, Slash from Guns N' Roses is one of the executive producers on this film, and of course, he contributed to the score. So far, it's had some positive feedback from the festival rounds, but let's find out for ourselves on the 11th. Fan favorite TV horror show What We Do in the Shadows is back for season 5 this July, which is so exciting because, as you know, almost all of the good horror TV shows seem to get cut. The comedy fantasy horror is based off the 2014 New Zealand horror film where we follow the lives of vampires living in modern day. The show surrounds 4 vampires who have lived together on Staten Island for over a century. 2 episodes will be released initially and then they'll switch to the week-by-week rollout format. This one will play on Hulu in America and on platforms who have the equivalent distribution rights in other countries. For Australia, I know that is on Binge. Creature feature horror fans, get ready. Danger is rising is a tagline for new horror, The Flood. The film will be released in limited theaters and on VOD platforms from the 14th. Starring Nikki Whelan, Casper Van Den, and Randy Wayne, the film is about a jailbreak that takes place during a dangerous Louisiana hurricane. But the chaos is multiplied when a horde of large, angry, and hungry alligators enter the equation. This one will be available on digital rental platforms from the 14th. What's better than one Bird Box? 2, of course, but it's not what you think. Bird Box Barcelona is not a remake. It's a spin-off sequel from the original. The film, set in Barcelona, follows a father and daughter who meet other people struggling to survive in this dystopian future where entities have invaded Earth. The cast is also interesting in this entry, starring Georgina Campbell, who you may know from Barbarian, Diego Calva from Babylon, Mario Casas, and Michelle Jenner. The film uses a mix of Spanish and English, and I'm kind of interested now. I know it's not just a remake. It's kind of like The Purge, same event but in a different place. Were you a fan of the original Bird Box? Are you ready for a sequel? Bird Box Barcelona will hit Netflix on the 14th. I wanted to quickly revisit Quicksand, which I mentioned last month. The film's Shudder release got pushed back from June to July 14th. The horror thriller follows an American couple on the verge of divorce who find themselves trapped in quicksand during a storm while hiking in a forest. Now they have to battle the elements of the jungle and work together to survive. I am so excited for this next one. Slick sci-fi comedy thriller They Clone Tyrone hits Netflix this month, and it looks delightfully nightmarish. And you need to check out this trailer because it's honestly everything, and hopefully it doesn't give away too much. It really does just give the vibe, and I'm all in. We follow an unlikely trio who investigate a series of eerie events, alerting them to a conspiracy lurking directly beneath their neighborhood, leading them to a vast underground complex where the government is everything they feared. The screenplay was part of the 2019 Blacklist, which is an annual collection of the most liked unproduced screenplays voted by over 500 film industry executives. In the past, this has featured the initial scripts of eventual Oscar winners like Jojo Rabbit, Argo, and Juno, with They Cloned Tyrone's tight editing, alluring story, and script that is already one of so many. I think this one is going to be a priority for me. Get ready for this bone-chilling journey into Mexico's dark history with The Lady of Silence. Streaming on Netflix from the 27th, this gripping documentary unravels the shocking true story that unfolded in the early 2000s as a wave of heinous murders targeting elderly women rocks the nation's capital. And the story just gets more twisted because after a string of failed arrests and numerous contradictions, the unthinkable happens when the most unexpected perpetrator is seen fleeing a crime scene in broad daylight. This Netflix documentary covers what you may know as the Little Old Lady Killer. German action sci-fi thriller Paradise hits Netflix later this month, and it sounds dark. Think Repo meets Black Mirror. Set in a not so distant future, a colossal pharmaceutical company dominates the industry, and its groundbreaking technology is capable of transferring lifespans between individuals. This breakthrough carries profound implications for society at large, and we meet a husband and wife, Elena and Max, who try to survive under crushing insurance claims. This compels Elena to sell 40 years of her life. Meanwhile, Max becomes determined to reclaim his wife's lost years. But believe it or not, this dark, twisted system holds many more secrets that are bound to come to the surface. This one will hit Netflix on the 27th. Oh, I'm ready for this next one. Psychological horror thriller Sympathy for the Devil drops later this month, starring Nicolas Cage and Joel Kinnaman. The movie follows a man who's on the way to be with his wife during the birth of their child, but a mysterious passenger approaches his car at gunpoint, forcing him to become his chauffeur. But we all know, never go to the second location, because it's not long before this new dad finds himself in a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, where it becomes clear that not everything is as it seems. Vague and mysterious. The trailer looks like an action-packed adventure with peak Nick Cage antics.
It's a family emergency.
I'm your family emergency now.
I'm a simple gal. I see a Nick Cage film and I watch it, and I'm hoping this one will have a twisted payoff. The film will be released in select cinemas and on demand on the same day, which is the 28th of July. Okay, this next one is a little bit of a mystery. I did some digging around and found that at the end of the month, How to Become a Cult Leader will be released. This is a limited Netflix doco series, and it will be narrated by none other than Peter Dinklage. It will act as a playbook to achieving unconditional love, endless devotion, and power to control people's minds, bodies, and souls. Basically, all you need to know about becoming a cult leader, citing examples of cults throughout history. I'm keen to see how this one turns out, and I know a bunch of you true crime fans will be too. So what will you be watching this July? Let me know down in the comments which ones look the most appealing to you. I've also pinned everything we talked about in this video today in the comment section. For more recommendations on thrillers and horror movies, what to watch next, make sure you're subscribed and head over to my Patreon if you'd like to support my channel. Hope you have a fantastic day, stay safe and stay spooky. Bye friends.